Welcome. My name is Linda Larson, and this webinar is the CEJA Workforce Ecosystem and Partner Building webinar. We're excited to have you join us to share some updates and information about the CEJA workforce programs and how they interact. My name is Linda Larson. I am the program manager for the CEJA implementation team as part of the University of Illinois. And I'm joined today by two of CEJA's regional administrators, Nate Keener, the regional administrator for the Central Illinois region, and Larry Dawson, the CEJA regional administrator for the Northern Illinois region. And we're delighted to have them on board, and you'll be seeing much more of them in the months to come as we launch these exciting new workforce programs. A brief overview of what we'll be covering today. I will be delivering the first part of the webinar that goes over the CEJA workforce ecosystem. We'll be introducing briefly each of the programs and emphasizing how they interconnect. We're going to be talking briefly about updates on how to apply for funding. We have two of the workforce program notice of funding opportunities that are already open, and we will be having more coming very soon in the next few weeks. We'll be talking about some of the connections and partnerships that you may want to start building as you prepare for these opportunities, the workforce connections and the community and employer and industry connections. And then finally, we will close by talking about some upcoming events that we're really excited to share information about to get these programs launched and to help applicants, potential applicants for these funding opportunities. All right, so CEJA stands for the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, and this is a comprehensive energy legislation, a landmark legislation in Illinois that centers equity and puts Illinois on track to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2050. You can see in this pie chart that it encompasses a lot of different aspects. The workforce and business development aspects we'll be talking about today, but I also want to emphasize that there's a lot more to the legislation. It includes energy access and solar for all. It includes renewable energy components, energy efficiency components, how we're going to get to carbon-free power as a state. It includes funding for electric transportation, and finally support for fossil fuel workers and their families. A few of CEJA's main goals are, number one, the goal to reach 100% renewable energy by 2050, and then some of the intermediary goals are to reach 40% renewable energy by 2030 and 50% by 2040. These are ambitious goals, and the legislation provides some funding and programs to support those goals. Another one of the main goals is to achieve a carbon-free power grid by 2045, closing all fossil fuel power plants in Illinois. And then finally, the one that we'll be focusing on today is to equitably grow the clean energy workforce to meet the demand for clean energy technologies and services that are required by this legislation. And this is really how the workforce development fits into the larger CEJA initiative. Illinois is investing in clean energy sources, electric vehicles, and energy efficiency, and we need to expand the clean energy workforce to do the work. We know that some groups of people and communities benefit more from clean energy investments, and some suffer more from environmental impacts and community disinvestment. So one of the goals of CEJA is to ensure that the benefits of clean energy investments and good paying clean energy jobs are distributed equitably. So what is that CEJA workforce ecosystem? If you've been to a few other of our webinars, this will start looking familiar to you. But there are essentially 4 equity-focused workforce training programs that are in this CEJA workforce ecosystem. The goal of these 4 programs is to prepare people for employment in the clean energy sector and apprenticeship placement as well. Then the people who are hired by these clean energy employers will be able to grow their capacity to work on clean energy projects that are funded through CEJA and other state and federal legislation. So briefly going to go over each of the 4 programs. The one that people ask me most about, and the one that that is receiving the largest amount of funding of the 4 programs, is the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program. It's often referred to as the Workforce Hubs or the Clean Job Hubs. The goal of this program is to prepare people for good paying entry-level clean energy jobs by providing clean jobs training, which will utilize a standard clean jobs curriculum framework. This program will be delivered at 13 hub locations throughout the state, and I'll show where those are in just a minute. And there's $24 million per year of funding, plus $15 million for barrier reduction services, for wraparound services, and other student support services that will be provided through this program. It's going to be delivered by community-based organizations and partners, and the notice of funding opportunity to deliver this program is coming at the beginning of July, and we're very excited to finally get this one out. On the right here are some of the main tasks that grantees who are delivering this program will be responsible for. They'll be recruiting participants, providing the clean jobs training, providing robust wraparound supports, and then finally job placement and transition support to help get folks into jobs and help them succeed in those jobs. The second workforce program is the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program, and the notice of funding opportunity for this program is already open. In fact, the due date is right around the corner on July 3rd. The goal of this program is to prepare people for apprenticeship programs in construction and the building trades. It will utilize a construction training curriculum with a clean energy focus and will be delivered in 3 centers throughout the state. This program has $10 million of funding plus an extra $6 million for barrier reduction services, and it will be delivered by community-based organizations and partners. And similarly to the previous program, grantees who deliver this training program will be recruiting participants, providing construction training, robust wraparound supports, and apprenticeship placement and transition support. The third program, we also recently released this notice of funding opportunity for the Energy Transition Navigator program. The main goal of this program is to increase awareness of and participation in the CEJA programs. They'll be providing recruitment and enrollment and engagement throughout communities in Illinois to help support the CEJA workforce programs. This will be delivered throughout the state in the 13 hubs and the surrounding areas. And this program will have $6 million of funding per year and will be delivered by community-based providers and any partners that they have. The main tasks, again, for the grantees who receive funding to deliver this program are to conduct outreach to raise awareness about the CEJA programs, to recruit for the workforce programs, to provide employer and stakeholder engagement on behalf of the workforce programs, and to provide enrollment support for the workforce programs as well. And then finally, the fourth workforce program that's part of the CEJA ecosystem is the Returning Resident Clean Jobs Training Program. The goal of this program is to prepare returning residents for good paying entry-level clean energy jobs. It will be providing training inside Illinois Department of Corrections facilities, utilizing the standard clean jobs curriculum that the workforce hubs will be using as well. The funding for this program is $6 million per year, and it will be delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. And the tasks are similar, once again, to recruit, to engage, and to deliver the training program. So where will these programs be delivered, and how are they going to reach people throughout the state? The Workforce Hub program is delivered in 13 regional workforce sites, as well as the surrounding areas. So if you're not in one of these 13 sites, but you're nearby and can attend the training, then certainly we want to draw people from as much of Illinois as possible. The 3 apprenticeship centers, pre-apprenticeship centers, will be in the Northern Illinois region, in the Central Illinois region, and then in the Southern Illinois region. And the Department of Corrections facilities where the training will be offered remains to be determined through the Notice of Funding Opportunity process. Who will the programs serve? The 4 different programs have slightly different eligibility, but generally these programs are serving equity eligible individuals who are defined as people who live in environmental justice or R3 communities. And we'll share the slides of this presentation, but you can click on this map here and see where those communities are. These are just 3 of the hub areas where the programs will be offered. You can see that a substantial portion of Chicago and Peoria are qualify as environmental justice or R3 communities. People can also participate who have barriers to employment, and these include people who have been incarcerated or current and former members of foster care. The programs also serve displaced energy workers and their dependents. These programs, these workforce programs are equity focused, and this goes beyond who they are serving and the numeric participant targets of these programs. We expect the programs to work to eliminate and reduce barriers. There's substantial funding for barrier reduction services to help address the needs of participants. We expect to see that the programs will build a community of collaboration, empower participants for resilience and success. We are working to set goals and measure outcomes, and then adjust the programs as needed to make sure that equity goals are met. And then finally, we hope that grantees will create a culture of belonging that celebrates differences. So those are the 4 programs I just talked about are the workforce programs, but we also DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, is also launching 3 equity-focused economic development programs. And these programs are meant to help contractors expand their capacity to do clean energy projects that are funded by CEJA and other legislation. So the 3 programs listed here, the Contractor Incubator Program, the Primes Contractor Accelerator Program, and the Equitable Energy Future Grant Program will be helping clean energy contractors receive the resources, the funds, and the support to grow their businesses and take advantage of opportunities to bid on clean energy projects and do the work to get our state to 100% renewables by 2050. So briefly, the three programs that DCEO will be implementing through the economic development programs are the Clean Energy Contractor Incubator Program. This will be helping businesses grow and build capacity to do clean energy projects by providing funds and services and support to contractor businesses. These services will be delivered at 13 regional contractor incubator sites throughout Illinois. The same sites that I showed in the slide where the workforce hubs are the sites where the contractor incubators will be. The funding for this program is $21 million per year, and it will be delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. Some of the main tasks that the grantees of this program will be delivering are to recruit contractors, to engage stakeholders, and to help provide support services. The Clean Energy Primes Contractor Accelerator Program, the main goal of this program is to help businesses grow and build capacity to do clean energy projects. Again, it will provide more intensive funds, services, and support to contractor businesses through 3 regional accelerators that provide services throughout the state. The funding for this program is $9 million per year, and it will be delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. And you can see here, they'll be providing bid preparation support, certification support, grants and loans, training, coaching, and mentoring. The Equitable Energy Future Grant Program will be providing funding for businesses, for contractor businesses, to help remove barriers to clean energy project, community, and business development that is caused by a lack of capital. This grant program will provide seed funding and pre-development opportunities for equity eligible contractors, and the amount of funding available is $34 million per year. So here's the 7 programs that I've just talked about. On the left are the workforce programs. On the right are more of the economic development contractor focused programs. And I just wanted to emphasize a few of those interconnections between all 7 of these programs. First of all, the 4 workforce training programs will really need to work together to engage employers, engage contractors and industry leaders and union apprenticeships to facilitate job placement, to also facilitate work-based learning opportunities. Really, these workforce programs cannot exist without strong partnerships with employers, and the 4 programs will be working together to facilitate that. The Energy Transition Program, they are really the navigators, the connectors in the CEJA workforce ecosystem. They will be helping to connect people and communities to the different CEJA programs by providing information and outreach. So they'll be in the communities doing recruitment and outreach events, helping people enroll in the workforce programs or the contractor programs that best meet their needs. One other connection that I'd like to emphasize is the Returning Resident Training Program. The Returning Resident Program provides training inside prisons, but participants will need support on the outside too. So we foresee a need to coordinate with the other CEJA workforce programs to facilitate job placement on the outside, wraparound supports, and additional training as needed. And then finally, want to note that the workforce programs are meant to feed into the contractor programs. Workforce training program graduates may want help to grow their businesses and their careers. And so they can, after they graduate and have worked for a while, they can participate in the contractor programs to help them grow their businesses and take advantage of funding opportunities. All right, so that's a little bit about the CEJA ecosystem and how the different programs are meant to interact with each other and work together. I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about providing some updates and announcements about how organizations can apply for funding to deliver the programs. And then we'll talk about some other connections that need to occur. So there's quite a bit of funding, unprecedented level of funding for this clean energy workforce development in Illinois. You can see here how much money is available for each program. These are annual awards, and DCO expects to make many awards to different organizations throughout the state. Here's our updated NOFO release timeline. As you can see, in May, we released the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program. We did extend the deadline for that to July 3rd. So if you were considering applying, it's not too late. We would welcome or other organizations to apply for that pre-apprenticeship program. And we can put some websites in the chat for that share that information. In June, we earlier this month, we released the Notice of Funding Opportunity for the Energy Transition Navigator program. Again, these are the connectors that are helping to bring people to all of the different programs in the CEJA workforce ecosystem. And the due date for applications is August 15th. So there's still plenty of time to learn more and apply. At the beginning of July, we're pleased to announce that we'll be releasing, that we plan to release 2 Notice of Funding Opportunities. The Clean Jobs Workforce Network program, this is that Workforce Hub program, will be released at the beginning of July, and then a little bit later, the Contractor Incubator program, the 13 incubators that will be delivered throughout the state. In August, DCEO plans to release the Equitable Energy Future Grant Program, and in September and beyond, the Returning Resident Training Program and the Primes Contractor Accelerator Program. All right, so as you're thinking about all of the different programs, and if it feels overwhelming when it's presented like that, you're not alone. This is a lot of funding and a lot of programs. Wanted to emphasize again that these are all different, and your organization may be better suited for one program over the other. So these are just some general guidance on which program might be a good fit for your organization. If your team has experience delivering construction and skills training, if you have strong ties to registered apprenticeship programs, as well as strong ties to the target communities and populations in your region, you may consider applying for the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program. Again, the due date for applications is coming up very soon. If your organization has experience providing employment and skill development and related services, if you have strong connections to clean energy employers and to target communities and populations in your region, you may want to consider applying for the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program or joining a team that plans to deliver this program. All right, if your team has, your organization and your team has really specializes in engaging communities through outreach, through education, if you have strong connections to those communities and relationships with workforce agencies and community organizations in the region, you could consider applying for the Energy Transition Navigator program, and this program is open right now. You can apply now. These will provide career navigation support for the workforce programs. And then if your team has experience providing wraparound supports, if you have strong ties to other community-based organizations for referrals, or and you have strong ties again to the communities and populations in your area, and most importantly, the ability to meet people's needs quickly and efficiently. You could consider applying as part of a team to deliver barrier reduction services for these two workforce programs. If your team has experience providing employment or skill development to justice-involved persons inside prisons or during the reentry process, if you have experience helping returning residents find employment, the Returning Resident Clean Jobs training program may be a good fit for you. And then finally, if you have experience providing support to small businesses in equity investment eligible communities, if you have connections to contractors and industry leaders, chambers of commerce and business development centers, if you have the ability to provide mentoring and coaching for small businesses, then you may consider applying for the Contractor Incubator Program or the Primes Contractor Accelerator Program. All right, sorry. Nate, can you make me the co-host? I think I just kicked myself off. Sorry, technical difficulties.
It looked like Larry was made the host.
Larry, so can you make me the host again? Okay. Apologize. Trying to do too many things at once here. As you consider applying for these programs, DCEO is strongly encouraging organizations to consider partnerships with other organizations. So each of these programs can be delivered by a single organization, or you can partner with other organizations utilizing a team approach. This is an example of one of the training programs where you might have a main grantee that provides some of the training, but not all of it. They help with application and enrollment and transition services. And then you have another organization that perhaps provides wraparound supports, more of the administrative role, some of the training. And then, you know, the Energy Transition Navigator may help with recruitment. So consider the ways that you might partner with other organizations. Consider the strengths of those organizations and what they might bring to your program. So there are lots of things that you can do to prepare to apply for funding. And if you've attended some of these webinars before, I've been emphasizing the need to start early in building your team and building partnerships. So again, consider the strengths of the organizations in your region and what program elements they may be able to deliver effectively. You can start by thinking about the locations where you'll provide services, particularly in those equity investment eligible communities. How will you make sure that the places where you provide services are accessible to all? You'll want to consider some of the local needs of the community and deciding where to provide the training in the general hub areas. Related to this, you'll want to identify local clean energy job needs. What employers and apprenticeships are hiring? What industries are expected to grow? We know some industries have more steady growth, and some industries such as solar are expected to see more exponential growth over the next few years as Illinois transitions away from carbon to renewable energy sources. So building those relationships, identifying the needs in your local community is going to be very important. And then finally, building partnerships, not just as part of your team, but thinking about the employers or the workforce organizations that can that can work with you to recruit participants or to provide work-based learning opportunities to help facilitate job placement. We know that there are many organizations throughout the state that have already started meeting up and building teams, and we're really encouraged by this. We hope you'll continue to do so, and that if you're just getting started, it's not too late. There's still lots of opportunities to get connected. So as you prepare to apply for funding, there are some resources that DCEO has made available. They can be found on this website, the DCEO CEJA website, listed here. And again, we'll share this the slides with you afterwards so you can get the links to this presentation. And on this website, you'll have pages for each of the CEJA workforce programs that goes into a little bit more detail about each of the programs I've described. There's a more detailed frequently asked questions sheet that we update about on a monthly basis. There's the Clean Jobs curriculum framework. You can access that now and take a look at what the hubs will be training people about. And then there's also a few reports and research that help capture the existing landscape of clean energy jobs and the need for training in different regions. So we hope that if you haven't already, you'll take a look at the website and take advantage of some of the resources that are already there. We've also created a potential partner list, and this list is a living document. I've put the link here. We've also posted it on our websites in a little bit more accessible manner recently. This partner list includes a list of organizations that have indicated a willingness to partner. It's organized by region, so you can go in and say, okay, how many people, organizations in Alton are interested in partnering for the CEJA programs. It also includes a list of clean energy employers, those who have self-identified and who want to be on the list to connect to the CEJA workforce programs, as well as some employers that are on publicly available approved vendor lists. So this can help you identify who the employers that you'd like to connect with. Again, anyone who's delivering one of these workforce programs will need to have strong relationships with the employers in their region. So we're hoping to facilitate that. The list includes Illinois registered apprenticeships, as well as a list of training providers, including NABCEP, that's a solar training program, registered trainers. Again, we wanted to pull things together so that the hubs, the applicants could have a list. This is not an exhaustive list, nor is it perfect. I'm sure there's errors, and if you would like to be added to this list, or if there's a change that needs to be made, please email CEO at ceo.ceja@illinois.gov, and we'll update that list so that it's helpful for people. And then finally, Larry's going to be talking a little bit more about this later in the webinar, but we will be hosting some partner building and technical assistance sessions in July coming right up. We don't have all of the details ready yet, but we will be posting announcements very soon. We'll be hosting some in-person regional networking events to help people identify partners, connect with clean energy employers and training providers. We're excited to get to know people in person and help facilitate those partnerships. And then because we have a few notice of funding opportunities that will be due soon or that are coming out soon. We'll also be hosting a few technical assistance sessions to help applicants. Those will include writing an effective proposal webinar, some GATA training, and then finally we'll be offering some office hours for individualized technical assistance. Details for all of these events will be provided on our website, and we'll be sending out email announcements as well. All right, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Nate, who will be talking about some of the other connections that are required through the CEJA workforce ecosystem.
Awesome. Thanks, Linda. Happy to be here with you all today. Again, my name is Nate Keener. I'm the Central Regional Administrator for CEJA. And one of the aspects of the CEJA ecosystem that we perhaps haven't gotten a lot of chance to talk about is the connection to the existing workforce infrastructure in Illinois. So we want to talk a little bit about what that infrastructure looks like. And we want to do this for a couple of reasons. For one, successful applicants will be those that leverage existing resources to make the CEJA funding go further, right? So working with partners in the coming slides can help you more efficiently provide services to the people that you will serve. And perhaps you can help these partners more efficiently serve their populations as well. We're all part of the same team here and kind of swimming in the same direction. And then the second reason is that several of these resources can help you just generally better orient yourself to the region's economy and its needs. So next slide, please. So how do the CEJA workforce programs connect to the larger workforce ecosystem? So you see the CEJA workforce programs there in the center bubble, and then I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about each one of these additional bubbles here and how that connects to kind of the program that you're helping to develop. Next slide. So WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, got kind of a good mission statement there on the screen. Federal funding source for strengthening and improving our nation's public workforce system. Its goal is to help American youth and people with significant barriers get high quality jobs and careers. Next slide, please. So when we talk about WIOA, we often will talk about the core 4 partners in WIOA. And what we mean by the core four core partners here are those agencies in parentheticals on the descriptions here. So Title I, we refer to Title I when we're talking about the adult dislocated and youth programs that DCEO administers. When we talk about Title II, we're talking about the adult ed and literacy programs that are administered by our community college network. Next slide, please. When we talk about Title III, we're talking about employment services administered by IDES. And when we're talking about Title IV, we're talking about vocational rehab program administered by IDHS. And next slide, please. And the way that the state kind of approaches administering WIOA is through a network of LWIAs, and you see the map here, and it's also linked on the slide. The state is broken into all of these local workforce innovation areas, and each one of these areas has a kind of a one-stop shop for folks wanting to access these services. And your local LWIA can be a great resource. So think about coordinating with them on outreach, referrals, and I'm talking, both directions. Maybe you're going to have someone come into your program and they're not quite a great fit for your program, but maybe they're going to be a great fit for WIOA, and you might be able to refer them to your LWIA office, or the other way around. Maybe somebody comes into the LWIA and they're actually a better fit for your CEJA program, and so setting up those lines of communication so you can get those referrals going in both ways would be beneficial to everybody. And then just think about ways that you might be able to help, that they might be able to help you reach your goals, and that you might be able to help them reach their goals. Remember, the folks operating these programs have experience setting up programs that are similar to yours. That, they'll have pre-screening, they'll have assessments, they'll have orientations, intake forms, enrollment forms, case management services, and the like. So just know that network exists out there, and to make sure we're reaching out and making those connections with that existing infrastructure. Next slide, please. And then here's just a number of resources that we would recommend you check out. So I mentioned the LWIA staff. Make sure you're reaching out and connecting with them and mining them for the information you can. But then also check out the WIOA State Unified Plan. And it's all of these things I'm mentioning are linked here. So WIOA requires every state to outline a 4-year strategy for their state's workforce development system, encompassing all 4 core WIOA partners. And so the State Unified Plan is designed to provide a vision of the governor's integration of the workforce education and economic development policy. And it includes principles, goals, and strategies to achieve that vision. So the plan itself includes input from leaders in business, economic development, education and training, workforce development, organized labor, advocates for populations with barriers to employment, and experts on economic and labor market information. And you can check it out at that link there. It's a pretty hefty document. It's over 500 pages, but a lot of good information in there that will kind of orient you to the state's strategy on workforce. The next one I have listed there are the WIOA, you can say on, yep, are the WIOA regional and local plans. And so WIOA also requires the creation of comprehensive regional and local workforce development strategic plans. And these will give you information about local workforce partners, employers, as well as information about in-demand sectors and employment demand and needs in your region. And those are another great resource that are going to be specific to your region. Also encourage folks to check out the regional data packets and the labor market data. And those are linked on the same page there. The regional data packets kind of provide a lot of that underlying data that are used to make those regional plans, population demographics, maps with high-level industry data per region, and then additional labor market data gathered by IDES should also help with some of that labor market information. And okay, next slide, please. All right, so now moving away from kind of the workforce development side, since CEJA encompasses not just workforce development, but also economic development. We also want to make sure that folks are aware of some of these resources as well on the economic development side. And I'm not meaning to separate them in any way. Obviously, there's quite a bit of crossover between workforce development and economic development. And so encourage folks to reach out to their Office of Regional Economic Development, or the RED team. And they're a resource much more for businesses and for small businesses and business services and the like. But they can be a great resource, again, for just kind of orienting yourself to your region, getting a good lay of the land of the region. You see their mission there is to promote economic development in Illinois through attraction, retention, and expansion programs. Next slide, please. And similarly to, on the LWIA map, the state is divided into 10 economic development regions, or EDRs. And so you'll see there that those colors there and the shapes made by those colors, somewhat roughly correspond to the map that we showed you for the LWIAs. Some of them, there's a little bit of crossover. One EDR might chop one of the LWIAs in half, and those kind of things. But it's a pretty rough estimation. And so encourage folks to reach out to those local RED team members, and things that you can talk to them about are making contact with your local chambers of commerce, making contact with local small business development centers, regional planning commissions, economic development organizations, and then just other industry associations and employer groups. Like I said, just kind of getting a good lay of the land of the larger region that you're a part of. All right, next slide. Oh, sorry, next slide. All right, great. And then the Illinois Office of Minority Economic Empowerment, or OMI, And OMI is committed to providing minority, women, and persons with disabilities and veteran-owned small businesses and entrepreneurs across the state with equitable access to opportunities and resources. And they, services that they provide are providing business assistance and one-on-one support, connecting individuals to business resources and opportunities, develop strategic partnerships to support the business ecosystem, celebrate and amplifying cultural diversity, and driving equity-centered programs and policies. So, I think both a good resource for having a similar mission to what a lot of the CEJA programs have, but also a potential for connecting clients that are coming out of the Primes Accelerator or the Contractor Incubator program, that they can then receive services through OMI as well later on down the road. Next slide. Yeah, and then finally the Business Enterprise Program. So is for businesses owned by minorities, women, and persons with disabilities, and it's committed to fostering an inclusive, equitable, and competitive business environment that'll support underrepresented businesses, increase their capacity, grow revenue, and enhance credentials. So the link here is to the BEP certified directory, and so that's a directory of businesses in Illinois that are certified as businesses owned by minorities, women, and persons with disabilities. So similarly to how with the message to connecting to OMI, kind of the same thing here. It's a good resource for, hey, here are businesses that are already in my community. Can we partner with them as an employer partner for one of the workforce programs, or might we be referring some of our successful incubator programs or accelerator programs to become registered on this list. So those are all the slides that I have, and appreciate everyone's time. And at this point, I will kick it to my good friend, Larry Dawson.
Thank you, Nate. And you've heard a lot about partnering. And one of the key things that we are trying to do is ensure that we're interconnecting all of the various stakeholders to be successful in both connecting the people who are targeted, eligible people in the communities, to a lot of the opportunities that we need to meet some of the governor's very ambitious goals for our decarbonized future. So we have identified a number of stakeholders in the process, and we have a wealth of valuable information in local and regional plans that Nate mentioned earlier that reference the WIOA resources. The environmental scan or the feedback from stakeholders was taken into account. And so many of the local and regional plans talk about the employer skill gaps in the region, specific industry sector partnerships, and even the neutral conveners in each region are identified. And with that environment, enter CEJA as yet another tool to connect stakeholders, identify their challenges, and marshal the resources necessary to address them collaboratively. Next slide, please. So we started with a focus on trying to find out what are the needs of businesses, and many businesses have specific needs around the types of workers they need, customized solutions, who can they connect to in their particular industry, and wanting to talk to a person, trying to figure out how do they actually connect to these various resources. And that's where CEJA comes in. At the very basic level, these partnerships exist in order to better serve the workforce needs of business, as well as connect to those needs in the community. They need to seamlessly identify and connect to talented individuals. They need workforce solutions that apply directly to their needs, as well as needing the results within these solutions that don't overtax the already stretched resources of the particular companies. Next slide, please. So what is the response to these needs? We've essentially come up with industry sector partnerships, and that's where CEJA comes in. What are they? They're regional, industry-driven approaches to building a skilled workforce, and perhaps the most effective way to align all the various resources, both private and public, is to address that with talent needs of the employers as defined by the employers. Industry sector partnerships are not just a one-off program or a singular training initiative, but we're hoping with the longevity planned in the CEJA program to have long-lasting partnerships being built through these various programs. We believe that the most effective of all of these ways to tie together all of these needs is with these industry sector partnerships. Next slide, please. And one of the frameworks that Illinois is heavily invested in is talent pipeline management, which was developed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and we wanted to provide this as opportunity and introduce the concept to those who aren't familiar with TPM as something to continue to look into. There's a link to the more information on TPM on the slide. And basically, it provides a framework that's built on industry best practices, focused on employer return on investment. And it's employer-led, provides a structured process for collective action and decision-making. As you've heard throughout today's presentation, partnership and collaboration are the needed ingredients to make this program successful moving forward. Next slide, please. And then we talk about the partners. We, as an industry sector partnership, which we've effectively defined as under CEJA, the clean energy sector, have a number of key components that are required to work seamlessly. And we've got the educators, community-based organizations, and certainly the employers and organized labor. With the number of individual partners, which can vary very widely, there's three main types, with businesses at the center who determine what their needs are, the skill gaps that we try to solve for. The community partners, which includes, as I mentioned, education through the K through 12 schools, community colleges and universities, as well as workforce development boards, one-stop partners, organized labor, and equally important, particularly in a TPM framework, is the neutral convener, which is an individual organization that doesn't directly represent any of the partners, but is able to understand the industry and is trusted by all the partners to be fair and impartial as they help to move the partnerships forward. Next slide, please. And one of the key areas that we wanted to highlight, I know it's mentioned earlier, the number of supports that are available in the CEJA programs to try to help job seekers to be successful. And we wanted to, again, mention the importance of connecting with community-based organizations in your area. Community-based organizations can be key partners because they have those deep connections with the community members, thorough knowledge of community needs, and provide the types of support services that a number of the participants for these programs will need to be successful. And they also offer a number of connections with other networks of community organizations to help you to have a very complete net or a mesh of organizations to meet all the needs of the communities that you serve. And we also wanted to mention too, that community action agencies are a great example of community-based organizations that provide a number of the supportive services that a number of the participants will need. And this network of organizations is present and providing services in every community in the state of Illinois. Next one, please. And in addition to connecting with local CBOs, it's also important to connect with the local organized labor unions. One of the ways that we connect with organized labor is through apprenticeships. And some of the benefits they offer is providing a steady pipeline of well-trained workers, reducing worker turnover. Employees benefit from the skill gains and income throughout the training period, which is key to their continuing participation. Offer workers a way to start new careers with good wages, as well as helping to match employers to employees to determine that it's a good fit. Next. But in looking at the workforce that we have, the emerging and the changing workforce that we have, we want to try to ensure that equity is the lens that we use to ensure that no one is left behind. As the chart shows, there are inequities or deficits in participation of a number of various demographics throughout the state. And we'd like to make sure that these opportunities, particularly with our clean energy future, are available to all. And how do we propose to try to do that? One of the ways is through clean energy pre-apprenticeships, specifically targeting equity-focused populations, equity-eligible communities, preparing the participants to enter and succeed in the apprenticeships, which is another reason why there are barrier reduction funds committed for this program to help to support people in their efforts to succeed in pre-apprenticeships, as well as to get jobs directly, providing access to educational and career counseling and other supportive services, as well as hands-on meaningful learning activities to help the participants too in choosing the career path for them. And then providing that support for applying to and transitioning ultimately into an apprentice program. And one of the questions that we've been fielding a lot is clean energy jobs. What are they? Beyond just the ones that are directly attributed to the building and construction trades, there are a number of other jobs as well that we're targeting in the suite of CEJA programs, from solar and wind energy, energy efficiency, energy storage, hydrothermal, geothermal, as well as industries that achieve emissions reductions, the manufacturing sector as well, where ancillary services and renewable energy resources and products are being developed, as well as manufacturing of healthier building materials that contribute to the reduction in harmful and hazardous chemicals. And finally, one of the areas that we often overlook when talking about clean energy jobs is that beyond just the specific products that need to be developed or the services that need to be delivered, There's also an administrative or back office function that is a part of those industries at those employers as well. And those are also considered to be clean energy jobs. Next. And some of the specific pre-apprenticeships that the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity offers, we spoke earlier, Linda mentioned particularly the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program. There's also the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program and Job Training Economic Development, or JTED, youth pre-apprenticeship programs as well, which we have, I think in my next slide, I'll have links to all of those. Yes. As well as getting information about registered apprenticeship programs, as well as lists of available registered apprenticeship programs in your area through the Department of Labor's apprenticeship.gov website. And as Linda teed up earlier, one of the efforts, since we're really trying to ensure that there's a heightened level of awareness of the availability of these funding opportunities, is both Nate and I, and eventually our Southern Illinois regional counterpart, will be doing a number of community networking fairs during the month of July. And why are these important? Next slide, yeah. Again, raising awareness about the funding opportunities, providing information like today's presentation on program design and how it was derived from the legislation, sharing information, answering questions, and creating an environment where we've got all of the key actors involved, from community service providers, educator and training institutes, and employers, to have an opportunity to partner and figure out new ways to collaborate. And the format of these is, most of them I think are scheduled around 2 hours, and they'll be scheduled for afternoons, divided into 2 sessions. The first half of the networking, the first half of the event will be more of a information sharing format with Q&A, followed by a job fair style networking fair, where the various partners will have an opportunity to meet and find ways to work together. And these what we're calling road shows will be open to everyone, organizations interested in applying, which we talked a little bit about our contact list. We've compiled a number of organizations that have already identified themselves as being open to partnering with others. So hopefully everyone will be able to find an event to attend. Organizations, both in clean energy employers and industry leaders, regional economic development, and workforce stakeholders also. Next slide, please. Yes. And as was, I think, identified on a couple slides earlier with the map that showed all of the key hub sites where the grantees will be located. We have combined a couple of the geographically adjacent locations together. We're in the process of finalizing the exact locations and dates, but the general areas of each of the road shows are listed here in the table, as well as the proposed dates that these will take place. And we're finalizing those details as we speak. And as soon as those are finalized, we will be communicating those out to all of the interested parties. And finally, are there any further questions? I know that there have been a number of questions asked and answered in the Q&A. If there's any other questions, please put them there or in the chat. And we thank you very much and look forward to working with you all.
And thank you again for attending. We are monitoring the chat. I'll get off and try to answer people's questions right away. We'll stay on for a few more minutes. Some of the larger, more difficult questions to answer may show up in our FAQs. So feel free to ask. We'll do our best to answer, but we may need to get back to you later to answer those questions. And we will be sharing slides. We will be sharing information to all of you who are attending about these upcoming events. And we're just grateful that you attended and hope to connect with you in person soon. Thank you.